Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Edward. I'm Pathmetri's co-founder and chief product officer. And welcome to our B2B Visionary series. This is kind of my favorite part of my job, where I get to speak to leading thought leaders. Can you do that? Thought leaders in the B2B marketing space. And why do we have this season? So really because hyper-personalized and on-demand experiences like Amazon and Netflix have set a high bar for content discovery and delivery in B2B marketing. They are consumerizing our B2B buyers. So they've changed their expectations of what they want out of the B2B buying process. But unfortunately, B2B marketing hasn't quite kept to that pace. And so for this series, we invite industry's top digital experts like Azair to demystify what's happening, right? And give us guidance and a roadmap as to how do we take our marketing from Blockbuster to Netflix. So we're all in for a treat today because it's my enormous pleasure to welcome Azair Dada to the series. For those of you that don't know Azair, and I've known him for a long time, you should do, because he is the founder and the CEO of Iron Horse, one of the leading B2B growth marketing agencies out there. I've seen their work firsthand and it's excellent, particularly focused on the tech and developer marketing. Zair's built Iron Horse from a startup to the award-winning growth agency that it is today, that's helping, well, he can talk more about this, but helping brands to navigate kind of digital transformation and really take their demand generation and indeed B2B marketing efforts in general to the next level. So Azair, welcome. Thank you very much indeed for joining me today.
Thanks, Nick. Happy to be here. Happy to reconnect. And sounds like a fun little thing you guys are doing. I think it's a fun conversation.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to have some fun. So we're going to chat for about the next 30, 40 minutes or so, see where it takes us. If you do have questions for Azair or myself, then please do pop them in the chat and we'll try and get to them as we go along. So Azair, do you want to expand a little bit more on Iron Horse and what you're doing with your customers? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, happy to. So, we've been around for a little over 21 years. I think Nick and I great together in the MarTech space over the last couple of decades. And the whole notion of Iron Horse was, how do we help companies transform as they're going through their growth evolution? And so the name Iron Horse is actually, I don't know, Nick, if you knew this, but the name Iron Horse was the first major industrial and technology transformation when the horse cart was replaced by the steel, or horse buggy was replaced by the steel train.
Right.
And the Brits called it the Iron Horse. So that kind of was the notion. And so what we've been helping companies do is sort of, how do they grow in a sustainable, scalable manner? We are strictly focused on technology companies or companies that are using technology to grow. So that's kind of our focus. And the notion that we've been sort of talking about is, how do you do kind of integrated data-driven growth? I mean, we all are, and we're going to have a lot of good conversation today. We all have all the Ferraris in our garage, but not all of us know how to drive it. And so, and you guys being one of those Ferraris, right? And so how do we sort of work as smart marketers to provide more a balanced approach to marketing and versus a checklist approach to marketing that I think everyone obsesses about?
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more. So when you're in your conversations with CMOs, what are you telling them are their major issues at the moment? What is the state of B2B marketing?
Yeah, so I'd say the first one is I'm just shocked how much it happens, but the alignment between sales and marketing. The number of conversations that I'm still having saying, I don't know if marketing really drives leads. Can you tell me what really drove a lead? Is marketing helpful? How do I know that X content syndication helped me, or ABM program is working or not? And the salesperson is asking this question of marketing, and marketing is just kind of spinning like a hamster on a wheel, trying to prove that they are relevant. So, but if you look at more progressive organizations, they're not talking about marketing and sales as two functions. They really are talking about growth as a team, where
right.
Some of the coolest organizations I've seen have started transforming where the CMO is actually reporting to CRO, right? And so this is now a unified structure. They don't have a marketing dashboard and a sales dashboard. They have a growth dashboard. Right. They're looking at things in sync. And so I think there is a time where we as marketers need to make sure before we start anything interesting and cool, we have to have that alignment. And that's an area where I feel we always give lip service, but really don't spend the time that at all layers that integration and the connection happens. Because once that connection is established, it's sort of magical. If it's not established, then every so often you have this knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
So I'd say the most important thing that a leader needs to think about is alignment from top down and bottoms up, and make sure it's cohesive, and not only just talk about it, but make sure they reinforce that on an ongoing basis. I'd say, to me, that is an area where most often than not, things break down.
Interesting. So a bit more than simply doing ABM, which I think is now kind of mainstream. It means a lot more than that, presumably.
Yeah, 100%. So, you and I were chatting about it before as we were prepping for this. I'm like, when people talk about, hey, yeah, ABM is a great example. Let's take that. So I'm launching an ABM initiative. The M in ABM should be taken out. It's not ABM. It's an account-based selling and growth strategy. Great, awesome. I'm selling to accounts. If I'm selling to accounts, marketing is doing an awesome job of identifying the accounts, working with the sales team. They're doing a good job thinking about who the buying team is. They're thinking about hopefully a good job of creating good content based on what their intent signals are and first party, third party intent signals are. And then they have now gotten leads. Now what? What goes to a salesperson? It's still the same old name and contact details.
Yeah.
All this awesome context that we have, this account dossier that marketing created, still sits on the left and is not shared. Or if it's shared, like they'll go and say, hey, oh yeah, I trained someone to use Demandbase or 6 Sense or Terminus or TechTarget. Yeah. Okay, so are they ready? Are they really ready? Like, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, some of my best quotes from salespeople after they've trained them is like, I'm like, here's all the information that, the account is exhibiting. They're like, that's great. How do I know they're going to buy? They still are looking for that spoon feeding. So it's not a one and done train. We often confuse change management with training.
Yeah.
And if all you're doing is the checkmark approach of, hey, I trained you on something and you moved on, and then you were like, oh, it didn't work. Who are we kidding, right? So I think we as leaders really have to focus on the alignment and sustained change management and reinforcement to happen if we feel this is going to stick. And this is the one place where patience is really important. And unfortunately, as you all know, we all know, sales and marketing folks are very impatient.
Yeah. I'll come back to the change management later, because I think you and I are on the same page on that, how important it is and how often poorly it is done. One of the things that's always surprised me still continues to surprise me, is looking into some of our customers and to your point, the degree to which marketing is siloed, sales is siloed, and things just get thrown over the fence. And I've never really understood why sales would then start to work something with no context, no visibility into what were they doing on the website last week? What are they interested in? What are they seeing off platform, on platform? What should I do with them next as a result? So, and is this something which is coming up in your conversation? I mean, this is a major focus for your work these days.
Yeah, very, very much so. So, the good and the bad is all the tools we're buying can hypothetically connect.
Yeah.
Right. And when I say hypothetically connect, they're all stovepipes within Salesforce or Marketo or Eloqua or whatever.
Yeah.
So they show up. Yeah, I don't have to have a separate ID and password. It's all integrated into my account view, so I can see what a TechTarget is showing, or what Path Factory is showing, or what Demandbase is showing. But they're still silos. It still requires me to have some sense of so what, right? And so we've done a good job of bringing it all together into a place where a salesperson doesn't have to log into multiple places to see it, but there still are too many tools.
Right.
And they're sort of disjointed. So I think one of the things that the marketers need to really do is talk about, if I'm going to truly have this concept of a unified conversation, and you guys are enabling all of that from a content perspective, how do I have that unified conversation across an account? So how do I look at signals that are happening in a unified manner? So if I'm selling to Bank of America and I'm selling a infrastructure as a service solution, some cloud infrastructure solution, there are different people that are involved in that conversation. What are all those conversations that are happening within Bank of America? And then how do I bring it together so that me, the Bank of America rep for that service or for that solution, can holistically look at, wow, this is pretty interesting. I'm seeing all this stuff happening. This is what I should do next.
Right.
Unfortunately, our tooling, although integrated, is not connected. Just because I have an API going in doesn't mean my data set is organized enough for me as a sales rep or a marketing person to bring it together. Someone needs to think through that to derive a next best action, right? So I think that's a super important piece that I feel today. It's awesome that it's available, it's enabled, but that pre-processing to drive that next best action is still not totally clear.
Yeah.
And I think that's an area that definitely needs to work on.
Isn't that the promise of the CDP space, right? The customer data platforms, this idea that we're going to unify, to use kind of Oracle's language, like front office and back office together into a unified view of the customer. And that's great in theory. There's obviously the practice of that. And then there's the second thing is like, all right, but do the sales guys live in the CDP? How does the data get from there? And the right view into that, and what is the right data, and how do we make it available? So what's happening? What are your thoughts on the CDP space and the hype versus the reality?
Yeah, I think CDP is awesome. I think it's helping align the data. But I think to me, then if you took a stepwise approach, first is connect. You connect to the sources. Second is bring it together. So now data is in a data lake or whatever else, whether you're using CDP or whatever else, to sort of bring it all together. And then is interpret.
Yeah.
And I think we're focused because it's easier. We're doing the first two relatively well. It's the interpretation and utilization of information that sucks, both on the sales side and the marketing side. Because again, go back to a unified journey, go back to the unified conversation, right? So what you're trying to do is saying, hopefully an action in one area informs an action in another area and vice versa. So if I consume some content using Path Factory and I have that signal now pass through Marketo or Salesforce or whatever it may be, I want that action to inform my nurture stream. I want that action to inform my sales sequence or call out strategy. I want that action to inform my social strategy, right? And those, if you just took those three dots as opportunities to be connected and cohesive, way easier said than done, right? And our sales playbooks and our marketing playbooks are still very static and extremely linear. They don't sort of take that into account. I mean, the number of smart companies that still have time-based nurtures rather than engagement-based nurtures. I mean, so to me, it's sort of, when you look around, you're like, okay, talking to a lot of smart people, but when you look at the actions, you're like, they're not doing it. And there's some obvious reasons for it, but I think that to me is a gap where I think the next evolution is the ability to interpret and actionalize the awesome data that's coming together. I think that still is a pretty big gap.
Agreed. I mean, that's obviously, as you well know, that's our bread and butter. How do we take something that's a time-based, kind of 10,000 people at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, like, because that's a good time for all of them, that type of nurture into across 6 weeks into something far more dynamic and on demand. But I think when we were talking about last week, we talked about what I've increasingly come to think of are the two kind of most important kind of macro trends in B2B marketing, sales marketing, growth marketing, or revenue. And one is obviously a drive to intelligence, not just data, but then insight and intelligence off the back of it, which is then in service of the second macro trend, which is how do I automate this more? Like the concept more of engineered selling, right? And how do I have dynamic playbooks rather than static, or something that isn't just a kind of prescriptive for this stage of the of the buyer's journey. And if they're in financial services, talk to them about that. Whereas in reality, they might be interested in something else. We might be looking at what they're doing on the website or on off domain, on third-party sites. And actually their interest is all the way over here, but we're not talking to them about that. So would you agree that those are the two kind of macro trends, right? Drive towards intelligence, then use that intelligence to automate, to engineer the whole marketing and sales process.
100%, and I think you hit on the head, which is, the first party and third party intelligence. I think that oftentimes we don't really take advantage of that whole ability to think about it. And as you and I were talking, to me, there's some fascinating macro trends that are happening. Recent, I think Forrester study was that the number of touch points that a company or a person goes through before they buy has gone in the last 2 years from 17 to 27, right?
Yeah.
Probably even higher now. Crazy.
And more people too.
And yeah, so that exactly. So that's 65% digital, 35% human, right?
Yeah.
Second is number of people in a buying team. I think this was another recent study. I think it was a Forrester Gardner one too. I don't remember which one. Average people in an enterprise buying team, 11. I almost shat in my pants. I was like, oh my God, it's crazy, right? I mean, that's totally crazy. And the last one that to me is the most fascinating was a McKinsey, a B2B sales study, which was the number of channels that a company or a prospect uses in their buying research process has gone from 5 to 10.
Whoa, okay.
Right. So think of like where you need to be. So I think that's there. And then another research point out of one of the inference points that came out of this was for certain types of projects and products, especially more established ones that people know, so more on the commoditized side or things that are pretty established and mature, the percent of time a prospect spends with the brand is less than 10% in the buying journey. That means 90% of their engagement is sort of happening all around you, right? So if you're a brand that is so focused on optimizing everything on your website and your nurture and everything else, but you're not looking at the intent and activity outside around you in the ecosystem, you're 90% behind in a lot of cases. Even if that number was 60%, whatever we want to call that number to be, right? It's dramatic. It's so different than we were before. So one of the key things that I think we all need to be cognizant of is you have to be present in the right watering holes. Have to be. If you're not present in the right watering holes and you're waiting for the traditional route of an MQL when someone comes to your home and raises their hand, you are way behind.
Yeah.
So I think intent signals, that are coming from different places are amazing. And even you and I were chatting about this stuff, which is something that I want to kind of talk to you more about after kind of and potentially try it. Why do I need to just deploy Path Factory on my own domain? Makes no sense. To me, you are a content delivery mechanism that I should be able to deploy anywhere I want.
Yeah. Have we got customers doing that? Generating first-party data on third-party sites, basically, yeah.
Exactly right. And so to me, that's the genesis and that's the change that I think needs to be there to embrace, to say, I'm going to connect with them anywhere they are. I'm going to consume and bring together first-party and third-party data and use that to now drive my next best action strategy.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, and if we are just, and that doesn't mean your own domain is not important. It's insanely important because now when I come to you, I expect you to know what I've already done.
Yeah.
One of the biggest turnoffs to me to this date, and I go through this because I get joy in talking to salespeople and see how they sell. It is they'll come. I've already done it. I'm ready to go. I've done the research. I'm saying, hey, I'm ready to spend. I want to do this. And they go back to step 1 where I'm on step 4. And they're like, hey, hold on. Let me understand what your need is. Let me, can we set up a follow-up meeting with my AE when I'm asking for a demo on the first call? They just don't know. They don't comprehend that I'm on stage 4 and they're on stage 1 and they should come up to my stage.
Yeah.
And It's a shame. It really is a shame because they are slowing down a sales process where someone is so far ahead because they're
Yeah.
not incorporating the data signal.
And I mean that's writ large what you said right at the top of the chat, right? It's like because someone's got the lead there without any context. It's like, right, okay, brilliant. I've got a new MQL. It's one of my target accounts. I'm going to start to work it. It's like, why am I working it? How am I going to work it? So you talked about Zara about like responding obviously dynamically and using the data to do that. And for a lot of people, that means personalization. And we've actually had a great question from Josiah. Thank you very much indeed. The question is, for many companies, hyper-personalization is a must. They don't know how to apply. Is it a strategy friction or technology friction or blocker? That's a good question.
I think it's I think there's a third category that I think he didn't call out, Josiah, what I would say is an organizational friction. So strategy-wise, there is a belief that we should do, right? But organizationally, often those decisions, especially in enterprise customers, don't belong within the right person ownership and hence get delayed. So I may be able to do something on the performance media side, but I don't control nurture. I don't control web. So I think that's a huge reason that doesn't happen. The other one is because of that exact reason, especially on my own domain, often the technology decisions are managed by corporate IT.
Right.
And corporate IT, for a multitude of reasons, don't want to do certain things. And so we sort of get stuck in all or nothing mode.
Yeah.
And sort of that leads to a lot of paralysis. So I don't think it's a technology capability problem. I don't think it's I don't buy the vision problem. I think it's a ability to get you to execute problem, which is largely organizational and policy driven.
I would agree with all of that, but I think there's a bit more to it too. So I've really gone off the word hyper-personalization because I don't really know what it means. And I think we've started to use it because personalization was such a bust in the first instance, right? People that were doing personalization were doing things like, your IP address is in Canada. I've got a rule for you. Like, you fit an audience, I've got a rule. I'm going to change the banner on my website. And it's the same every time. It's the same for me and 36 million other people, right? I don't think that was personalization, but that became the state of the art. Are you doing personalization? And we're trying to use hyper-personalization to something that's better than that. The word I really like is relevance. How do we aim to be relevant wherever we see someone? And I think that's certainly what we're aiming for. And I would say that I think all the points you made are cracking, but I'm not sure that we've got the right data/operating model for that. And so let me explain what I mean.
Yeah.
Because in B2C, right, like Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, all the things that I love and use on a regular basis, they're able to be relevant to me without knowing a ton of information about me. And why? Because they use my engagement profile first and foremost. They make that the foundation, not the fact that I'm 46 and bearded and live in Toronto and have 2 kids, etc. Right? Some of that might be interesting for filtering down the line to help me find the right precedents, but it's not the primary thing. The primary thing is, what do I like? What am I interested in? We don't do that in B2B. We haven't had this operating model. We've been obsessed with firmographic and demographic data, and we haven't translated the website into topics of interest, and we're not building topics of interest on the website. We are, ironically, for third parties using intent data signals from Marlboro's, the Sixth Sense, etc. of the world. But we haven't done that necessarily very well on our own digital footprint. So I do think there's a data issue too there, that we need what we refer to as kind of content intelligence. We need to understand, what is Bank of Montreal actually interested in? And then how do I, and this is the automation part of it, how do I then find more relevant content to them? It might be 4 clicks away, and it might exist. I go at the top line nav and then down. Sure, but I'm not going to navigate that. I'm not going to discover it. So how do we bring that to them, put it in front of them in the same way that I finished watching season, whatever we're on, 4 of the Ozarks, and gutted to find there was a season part 2, which I didn't even know was happening. So I felt quite cheated. But what else is there around like Ozark, right? Like, these are other things that you're going to find interesting. Do you think that's got some legs to it?
Yeah, no, 100%. So yeah, I think so. I think there's a couple of things, and I think you talked relevance. I've been sort of talking about and calling it humanized,
Oh,
not
okay.
personalized, but humanized. So one of the
I like that.
so to me, I think that's happening on the personalized side is personalized has sort of become robotic automation, right? It's the old school mail merge that we all had when we were growing up
Right.
using Microsoft Word when we were sending resumes and newsletters, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. That's not personalization. It's just you're automating certain
Yeah.
things. So one of the things with all the AI automation stuff that's happened, I feel, is we've lost the human touch, which part of it is from an engagement data set, right?
Right.
We're not stopping and thinking about what does that mean. And frankly, if you look at the number of touch points, 35 to 40% of those touch points are still very human. That
Yeah.
means I need to interpret what I have, even if it's intelligent and engagement data. I need to interpret it and sort of derive what else can I do with you
Yeah.
and not take a shortcut. That really is an interpretation part. So, I mean, I think there's a humanized element that drives relevance, and there is the automation element that's relevant. So let's now shift to content, because I think that I love that you talked about it. To me, it is insane, but not surprising, that most organizations, the amount of content they produce, they are becoming a Netflix. They're becoming a
Yeah.
publisher.
Yeah.
I mean, I know companies that are publishing have thousands of blogs.
Yeah.
Thousands, right? And they're producing like a machine, like a factory.
Yeah.
But they're not interpreting and understanding who is consuming it. Are they using it for the right thing? Should it be gated? Should it be not gated? Is it working? Is it not working? They are just so obsessed with production that
Yeah.
they're not focused on engagement. And so back to that checklist conversation we started earlier, to me, all the pieces are there in the marketing funnel, that the things that need to happen, but they're in imbalance. We're sort of creating content, we're putting technology, but we're not looking at the data set to drive the next best action.
Yeah.
This is back to your engagement data. I couldn't agree more, which is, that doesn't mean demographic for graphic information is not important, but if you're not looking at what they are doing and if it's working or not, what good is it?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that couldn't I think if there's one thing that marketers should take away from it is, and I use this a lot with a lot of our senior leadership that we talk to, is sometimes you got to slow down to go fast, right? Which is, stop producing all the content, but look at making sure that you're measuring and looking and reading the tea leaves, looking at the engagement data, to make sure you're creating better content and good content that people care about and that drives you to the next level. You guys are amazing platforms that allow for that to happen, but there is a sheer obsession about content creation and not using content to drive that next best action.
I do agree. I mean, I write a fair bit of content, not probably as much as I should, but I fall out of love with my content, right? And something that I wrote 6 months ago, I got a new view, whereas actually it might still be really relevant. And simply because I hear this a lot from marketers at the start of sales cycles, when people go like, we're not sure we've got enough content, and then they will have 2,000 blog posts or whatever. And what they really mean is, we're not sure we've got enough content we like, that we've kind of fallen out of love with it. Yes. But if your audience hasn't ever seen it, and it's still relevant, yes, then it can do a job for you. I mean, I still think we're all haunted by that serious stat from years ago of like the 65% of B2B content goes unused. I mean, God, like the amount of money that's just sitting there that doesn't have any form of return against it is pretty shocking. But some of that, and so we did a webinar with Forrester a couple of weeks ago, and it was super interesting. It was all to do with problems with content tagging and taxonomy, right? And I think so many of this comes down to information architectures. And when you stop back and think about it, it's what the website is, full stop. It's just an information architecture. Like, how do I try and navigate something and find something? And I think this is what's got me out of bed for the last several years. It's like, how do we use AI to generate more and better information architectures? And that's the problem that AI is actually really good at. So are you seeing any interesting use of AI across your customer base?
Yeah, I mean, like the intent signal stuff is awesome, right? Being able to synthesize all the stuff. I mean, I'm a huge fan of all the ABM platforms. I think they all do things in a slightly different way. And to me, if you can afford enough to have many of them, the layered intent strategy, I mean, I just geek out on it. I mean, I've been talking about connect the dots forever, right? I mean, that strategy hasn't changed, but it's enabled now. So being able to see that what's happening top of the funnel from a signals perspective and be able to sort of derive that, saying, okay, I can now connect them together, being able to connect my middle funnel activity like product review sites like Trust Radius or Gartner or G2 and bring that into the fold, being able to pull in my marketing and sales data into the fold, bring in Path Factory data into the fold. If I can do that and then be able to derive AI-based models to say, what should be that next action? I mean, it's fast. There's no way the data is too big, or it humanly makes some sense of it. It's almost overwhelming, right? So to me, I think that area is amazing. I couldn't agree more. I haven't seen something that on the IA side has done anything awesome, but what I do, I think it's sorely needed because again, on the content publisher conversation, the amount of people, because of sheer laziness and not lack of managed process, tag everything to everything. It's crazy.
Yes.
Go to a large company in their resource center and use a filter. You'll see 80% of the content is tagged to everything. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, we all have a FOMO. Oh my God, if I don't tag this, they won't see me.
Yeah.
So we want more is more rather than less is more. And so having sort of intelligence around this really means X and trying it. And then, I don't know where you guys, I know where you are because you guys are all about sort of, binge consume everything. The gating conversation, oh my God, still to have the gating conversation because I need to gauge you on every step.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're still having that conversation in this day and age. Right.
Yeah.
So that to me is another fascinating area.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a time and a place for it. I mean, as you know, we've got kind of behavior-based forms. It's like remove the hard gate. Let people try before they buy. And if you still want to serve them a form, then do it after 2 minutes, right? At least, or only do it to anonymous visitors after they've engaged with 3 content assets. But more often than not, you do have to ask yourself, do you really need it? Particularly if there's other ways of de-anonyming them. And certainly don't do that kind of like, well, my lead management process demands 15 fields. So you've got to fill in all 15 fields. Do you really need that these days? Like, really? Yeah, and there's different ways of conversion to drive a conversion, right? I mean, thinking about stimulating a drift engagement, right? So for a chatbot engagement, like spark a conversation of this, or you know what? Let me take you straight to where you can get the free trial of my product, or into like a self-service demo. Or we're seeing, I'm sure you guys are seeing a lot more of that, like how, like in the tech space. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially now with all the PLG, all the product-led growth stuff on the tech side that's happening, which is all self-service, right?
Yeah.
In a self-service model, having containers like you guys, having drift chatbots that are optimized, the playbook's optimized for where I am, so that I can drive that shortcut to where you want to be and not have you get lost. Insanely important. And I think that's the part to me, is that we need to become more intelligent and use the tools better. So Drift is another great example. Number of technology companies that use Drift, enormous. Number of people who use Drift properly, tiny. Right? Because they just literally turn it on and it seems like a bloody robot on your website.
Right.
I mean, right? It's not meant to be that. It's supposed to be a conversational extension by having the relevant playbooks on different pages. It's not hard, but it requires someone to think through the conversation arc.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, I think if we all just stop taking shortcuts and just utilize the tools better for what they're meant for, we would have a more optimized conversation, right? I mean, the ability to service up content that's relevant, you guys are doing that in spades. So that same thing needs to be in having a conversation with an account.
Yeah. So to our audience, what are the three practical things they could do tomorrow to start to make that a reality, right? I mean, an example that I think I mentioned this last week. One of our enterprise customers recently had their first ever MarTech vendor day, and it was brilliant, to be honest. I mean, it was like tell us kind of like, well, quick overview of what we've done in the last 12 months together, but then what functionality are we underusing? We want your opinion of it. And then we want your better togethers with the other core parts of the MarTech stack, right? And don't do it individually, do it together, right? And again, tell us where we're under leveraging. It's just laid the foundations for some really good kind of 3 to 6 month change management, hopefully around that. So what are the three things that people could or should be doing tomorrow to learn how to use those Ferraris?
Yeah, so I'd say the first part is make sure everyone knows what the Ferraris do on both sides of the table, sales and marketing, and they know how to use it properly, which means that make sure you spend the time to not just do a training session, but you sort of stick to it and do some cool things. So I think change management, if you have those Ferraris, is preeminent. Second is make sure the Ferraris are connected, that they all are sharing data across those, right? So and then if they're connected, they're not just connected from a technical connection perspective, but that you are kind of thinking about what should help drive that unified conversation, and start small. Pick 2 or 3 things. Maybe it starts with your website, email nurture, and social. Maybe it's just website and email nurture. Just go there and then add something else. Don't try to become the hyper personalized conversation tomorrow, because you'll just die before you start, because you're just going to get overwhelmed. But fix 2 channels, then add a 3rd channel, then add a 4th channel. And then lastly, I think you sort of hit it on the head a little bit, but I think you have to recognize, if you haven't done so, that your prospects are everywhere. And you have to be present in those relevant watering holes, and think about. And relevance doesn't mean you are just syndicating your content. Relevance is be smart relevant. Embed a Path Factory experience, embed a Drift experience, do other things across those places. So hopefully you are enabling first-party data at third-party locations. But if you're not, third-party data is still very good, and you can sort of start layering that in. But I think to me, those are the macro things. But the nirvana state is unified conversation, making sure that you are sharing data, and that not just with you, but others who care about it. Another little example, it's sort of on a tangent, is my content team came to me one and said, I'm like, how are things going? It's like, great. I'm like, one thing that we could improve is we create all the content for you, but no one ever tells us how that content did.
Right.
Like, shame on us. Right?
Yeah.
We as marketers are using that. We have that here, but we forget to share it with the content and the creative teams who are actually developing it for us, because they are the experts to share that information, to make sure you're not hoarding that data that you have, that you're sharing it with the ecosystem that is involved in making this happen, because it is a team effort to make it happen. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very much so. I would have thought there's some really actionable stuff there for everybody. So I told you this was going to whiz by. My final question for you. So where do you hope? Well, let me ask you a 2-parter. Where do you hope we're going to be, say, end of 23? What's become mainstream by then, and then realistically, where do you think we'll be?
Wow, that's a tough one. To me, I'm still dreaming of a unified conversation. And I don't think we'll be there by the end of 23, but I think we'll get close and be able to truly utilize data from different disparate sources to inform actions across different touch points and channels.
Yeah.
I think we're getting very, very close, whether it's through CDP, whether it's through using more intelligent tools and intent-based platforms like demand bases and 6 senses of the world. I think we're getting close. I think the challenge will be, at least in the enterprise level, is the ability to bring those organizations together to have a customer perspective and not a functional perspective.
Right.
And that is hard for making a big, large organization to think, even though they talk it, to do it is not easy. Not everyone is an Adobe that is, or Salesforce that has the ability to bring it all together. Even those guys struggle. But I think that to me is going to be the challenge. So I think you'll see more action towards it. I think you'll see much better unified data sets that are happening because people are starting to say we have to have it. So I think there's a conviction behind it now. I don't know how far we'll be in 23 just because of the organizational challenges.
Yeah, no, I think that's some very, very wise words and observations. I mean, I fully agree. I think some of it actually is probably incumbent on folks like us and demand-based success, right? Like we're all fighting a little bit for, well, there's only so much real estate to go around, right? Like, and whose eyeballs do we want? Like, where are the customers' eyeballs going to be, and how do you? We don't need 7 tabs on Salesforce, right? Like, how do we start to aggregate these into more consolidated Cole's notes types of views that don't just have descriptive reporting, but have predictive and prescriptive and next best action recommendations and whatever it's going to be. Share this with Bob because BMO's just binged on content on your website. Yeah, lots to do, that's for sure. It's going to be an interesting couple of years, but I think you share with me, I think that I do feel that we're in a real inflection point in B2B marketing at the moment, that we've now we spent so long generating data, and now we're actually starting to turn it into intelligence and into automation, and that's got to be a good thing for everybody.
I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, no, well, I just wanted to say thank you very much indeed for joining me tonight, or morning your time, so thank you very much indeed. And thank you everyone for joining us, and Nazar, I'll see you in Forrester Summit hopefully in 2 weeks time.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Thanks all.